Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Without repeating what I had said earlier, I do think that whatever Your Honor, whatever the court decides regarding this title, taxes must be in the title and the concise description in order to be accurate so that people understand what they're looking at. I understand why the sponsors view the word taxes as having a negative connotation. Obviously, I-1631, 59% of the voters said no, over 59%. And so as repackaging this under a new initiative and hopefully eliminating the word taxes is an understandable strategy on their part. However, voters do pass taxes all the time. They pass it in a local school and to support their schools, and they don't call property taxes property user fees or property ownership fees. They call them property taxes. Voters are willing to pass taxes if they agree with what the tax dollars are going to be used for. And I think that it's most fair that we make sure the voters understand what this is. There was a reference to for the highest level of notice to the voters because of such an impact that this initiative would have on their day-to-day lives of everybody. There's no way to avoid it. You can avoid alcohol fees or taxes on alcohol by just not going and drinking alcohol. You have no way of avoiding this now if you live and use any kind of transportation or attempt to heat your home. This is something that's going to affect every voter and every resident of Washington State. And so the highest level of notice to those voters, to be fair and accurate with what this initiative actually does, would be to include the word taxes in the ballot title. Not pollution, but taxes. I think that's that's the most important word. If whatever the court would decide, I didn't bring a motion here, but whatever they would decide, as long as there's tax in the title, I think that it at least would send a notice to the voters in a language that the average voter would understand that this is going to be something I'm going to be paying for quite a bit. I think that the fact that tax dollars are, so much of this initiative deals with how these tax dollars would theoretically be spent by putting them into these segregated funds is not a good argument to support not including the idea of a tax in the title, because those segregated funds get swept all the time. They're so generic in how that money would potentially be used and theoretically be used that I think that it needs to be emphasizing the most significant thing that's actually going to impact everybody who votes on this, and that's the fact that they're going to be paying a tax one way or the other, and a substantial tax at that. I-1631 is very applicable, I think, and I'm going to repeat and support some of the things that Petitioner Christensen referenced here earlier, and both in the petition and the reply that he made earlier, and also in oral arguments today. I think we would find a lot of common ground on the summary and some of those other issues. I just think that I-1632 is absolutely applicable. The mechanism for the taxation still exists in I-1631. Just because a tax cut offset to reduce the harm that 732 was going to impose on people was proposed in the first initiative. Now it's removed. It's actually a more significant tax now than it was then. If anything, now it's more important to call it tax, as I-1632 was called a tax by the Attorney General originally. And so realizing that whatever the final decision of this court may be on that title, I believe that it just needs to reference a tax that people understand what it's looking at. Everybody's referring to this as the carbon tax. Every outside observers, the media, even the sponsors originally, until I made that point, referred to it as a tax. And I think that as long as it's correctly referred to as a tax, voters will at least have notice that what they're voting on is going to have an impact on them in their day-to-day lives, and a significant one at that. So with that, Your Honor, if you have any more questions.
I don't, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.